It all begins in a sleepy little ryokan town called Toyama, Japan. This is where Reverend...
Where's that?
What part of town is that? Is that near the flower district?
Yeah, what place is it?
It's the cherry blossom district. This is where Reverend Shutai Aoyama was sent by a Buddhist archbishop on a mission to spread...
quintessential cat pose.
Yeah, he just phantom stood in front of a full moon right now and stretched out.
on a backyard fence.
So this guy was sent by a Buddhist archbishop on a mission to spread their Shingon branch of Buddhism to the Japanese population living on the west coast of the United States. Interestingly, this kind of feels like the Pentecostalism of Buddhism.
Okay.
So this branch of Buddhism believes that everlasting peace and harmony is achieved by the repeated chanting of mantras.
Okay.
So like they are the ones who are repeating the same phrase over and over to try to like
hit a zone, hit a spiritual zone where they exist beyond, they transcend.
They have risen.
Okay.
So in 1898, Aoyama came all the way to Los Angeles here, where he ended up working god-awful actual hard work jobs like picking produce and shipbuilding and a stint with the Santa Fe Railroad Company.
Wow. The shipbuilding sounds hard, but that song's really good.
In these awful jobs, he saw that his Japanese co-workers were struggling within themselves to not only make a living in this new country, but also finding their place here.
Okay.
This is where Reverend Aoyama was able to offer what he did best, spiritual guidance. He started offering Buddhist services to anyone who was interested out of his room at the Miyako Hotel in Little Tokyo. And then in 1912, he found a more official setting in a house in Elysian Park, and then an even more official setting in a storefront on Commercial Street. And the place started being called the Koyasan Daishi Mission.
Okay.
By 1914, he had 300 congregants, and by 1920, they had 1,500, making it the largest Buddhist congregation in LA. And that meant they needed an official place as their own temple. This time, a place was built specifically to be a temple for them.
Okay.
The location they chose was at 133 North Central, which is today between where the Japanese American National Museum and Mocha 2 are.
Oh, okay.
Mocha 2, the streets. And to commemorate its opening, they planted a Moreton Bay fig tree in front of it that they named the Aoyama tree after the Reverend.
Okay.
The building is no longer there, but this tree still is and is now over 60 feet tall and has been an LA Historic Cultural Monument since 2008. So you can go see this tree that they planted in honor of this temple. And go ahead, take a few inches of bark off of it, just for yourself.
They like it.
Yeah, the tree likes it. It feels good to a tree. In 1920, it's like a really good back scratch to a human. In 1921, Aoyama moved back to Japan, but he was replaced by Reverend Hokai Takada, who grew the temple into more of a community center and resource for new Japanese immigrants. One group started around this time was the Fujinkai, which was a women's association that throughout the 20s and 30s would hold cooking classes and dances and fundraisers, as well as being the welcoming crew for the sailors visiting LA from the Japanese Imperial Navy for training and trade missions, which seems crazy that they were welcome in LA 10 years before they were not welcome in LA.
Very much not welcome.
In fact, we shot at a balloon for 4 hours because we thought they were here. They'd take them out to lunch and give them a tour around LA while they were docked in San Pedro. In 1931, the next guy took over named Reverend Taido Kitagawa, who started the all-Japanese Boy Scout Troop 379, which in 1935 were named the Outstanding Boy Scout Troop of the United States by FDR and were invited to the White House.
Oh my God.
One of these boys who eventually joined this group, George Takei.
Wow,
he
really?
was a member of this. Not in 1935, but...
Sure, it was the same group.
Same group, different Takei. But eventually, this temple wasn't big enough anymore. So in 1937, they raised the money to buy a lot of land but also a lot of land at 342 East 1st Street, where they planned to build their permanent location. The place was designed by Mieki Hayano, and on November 17, 1939, they had the official groundbreaking, complete with blessings and sumo matches.
Oh, yes.
Which is how they broke the ground.
When did they fall down?
If you don't pin him, this project is never going to move forward.
The mayor's watching.
Get bigger. It opened October 26, 1940 as Koyasan Buddhist Shikoku Betsuen, with a big parade from the old location to the new one led by the Boy Scout troop. Its main hall could fit 600 people and also had a large second story and basement that could be used as well. It cost $100,000, and to help pay for it and to continue funding it, they built shops along First Street that the temple owned to bring in money. This is the temple that's still there today.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. You kind of have to go, it's down a little alleyway, and there's this really nice temple if you're on First Street.
Okay.
It's kind of hidden, but those stores around it, I guess, are still owned by them. They're like little gift shops. You may not have seen. I stumbled upon it years ago and was like, look at what I colonized.
Look what I founded.
This must be the land of Danielia. And look at all these Daniels walking around here. Yeah, you may have just, it's so easy to just walk
I don't know
by.
what I'm looking at when I go to any place, really. Is this a city hall or a church or somebody's house or I
don't know, but I'm speaking in tongues. So things were going great for the temple and the Japanese residents of Little Tokyo in 1940.
Okay.
Then came December 7th, 1941. The current reverend of the temple, Takahashi, was giving a service on Terminal Island when the news came in. Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor.
Oh, boy.
No Japanese people were allowed to leave Terminal Island, but Reverend Takahashi, he managed to get out the next day because the soldiers thought he was Mexican. So he was able to leave. What a weird thing of like, you hear people of like, yeah, I was in Berlin when the Iron Curtain came down, to be on Terminal Island when Pearl Harbor happened.
Wild.
2 days later, the FBI took him though, and he was sent to an internment camp for the rest of the war.
Awful.
Soon after, pretty much everyone else who went to that temple and the Japanese people in LA at large faced similar fates. The people who were evacuated from Terminal Island actually stayed in this temple until they were shipped off to the internment camps. For the duration of the war, with the congregation all removed from the city, the empty temple was used as storage for their belongings, which is incredibly eerie to think about.
Yeah.
For years, it was just an
Sitting
empty, just
there.
dust gathering on people's suitcases.
That's scary.
In 1944, the War Relocation Authority offered to transfer all these items to a government warehouse for storage in anticipation of the war ending and the temple coming back to life for the returning residents, which they took them up on with massive trepidation. But after the war, these people had lost all their homes and their jobs. So the temple was pretty much just a hostel for people coming back to LA who no longer had a place to live. Because of that, the county taxed them $5,000 for now being a hostel, which they couldn't pay because they had been closed for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And this debt wasn't relieved until 1957.
Oh, cool. That's not the same year. That's actually a farther year.
Maybe if you flipped the digits.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, the temple lived on. In 1949, they started the Sonnenkai, which is the Young Buddhist Association, and their congregation is still going strong today. They are the keepers of the Hiroshima Memorial Park Peace Flame. They have it there. And the first Sunday of every August, they hold a memorial for the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They are the North American headquarters of the Koyasan Shingon Mission. And yes, they still have the Boy Scout troop, so practice your knot tying, Greg. We're getting a free trip to the White House. It's the last thing I do. We're going to bring this back to its original glory. Us, the colonizers of this Boy Scout troop.
President Biden, this is a ship shank knot. Get him out of here.